Right, so welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us on Channel 405. The Springboks are on course to win back-to-back Rugby Championship titles for the very first time in history this afternoon. So depending on that result between Australia as well as New Zealand and Perth, any margin win might just be enough for coach Rassie Erasmus and his side to make history this afternoon. So to chat to us more about this, we are joined live from London by our correspondent Zayn Nabbi. Zayn, a very good morning to you and thank you so much for your time. I was quite surprised. Twickenham Stadium has a capacity of 82,000. So far, only 65,000 tickets have been sold for this encounter. Are we expecting maybe to see more tickets being sold between now and later on this afternoon? And I just also wonder how many Springbok fans are likely to be at the stadium this afternoon.
Listen, the green and gold army, Rachel, will dominate the crowd here. There's no question about that. You're right. 65,000 tickets have been sold for this game. It is Argentina's home game, which they've given up to be hosted at Twickenham. There's good marketing to get out of it, but it's mainly because of the gate sales, right? They're able to sell tickets here for about 150 euros. They would sell it normally for close to 60 euros and up. But you're right. There's an 80,000 capacity crowd here. 65,000, though, is still not to be sniffed at. If you think about it, it's more than the number of people who would have gone to Kings Park in Durban last week. So I can guarantee you the majority of those people will come for the Boerewors belt here in London like I do. So Wimbledon, Rains Park, Putney, they'll be here. And you never know. On game day, there could be a few extra sales. So I expect to hear Amagwijo. I expect to hear all the South African anthems. Yeah. And, of course, there's an Argentinian expat population in London and the United Kingdom. But I can tell you the South Africans are going to dominate it. And, you know, in the build-up to the game, it's worth mentioning, Rachel, that the Springboks have a fine record here. They've knocked over the English twice. They've played Wales here and they've played New Zealand, where they had the record score at the time of 37-0 ahead of the 2023 World Cup. 2023 World Cup. And they even beat Argentina here in 2015 during the third place playoff. We spoke to the team yesterday. They're well aware of the South Africans who will be coming to support them. And Springbok assistant coach Mazwandile Stick, he gave us an insight to what he sees when he sits at the front of the bus and how seeing lots of South African fans gives the team inspiration. Yeah, you can take a listen to him now and hear him in his own words.
Playing at Twickenham, I know, see a touch on it, got a lot of South Africans in UK, it's always special because I sit in front of the bus, when we go to the stadium. And I look at the vibe, I look at the green and gold around the stadium, and it always feels like I'm back in South Africa, probably in Cape Town. Hopefully they can come out also in numbers tomorrow and support us, and probably we'll do everything in our parts to also. Would it be nice for us, for example, if you think about the Rugby Championship in UK, do you understand? It's almost like a final. If we can make it special for them also, we'll do everything in our parts to make sure that we also play for them.
Like I said, the green and gold army will be here in their numbers. The Boerewors stalls, the Biltong stalls, all your South African luxuries that you love will be here. I have a little bit of a funny story. When I was at the team hotel earlier this week, the Springboks were having a braai, and a local South African provider had come. And the staff actually got surprised to see the amount of wheat that had come in for the braai. And also, they were going to cut some fresh Biltong for the Springboks. And the staff at the hotel said, I can't believe the size of the machines. Well, if you look at the Springbok team, there are machines. And it's hard to imagine, Rachel, at the start of the Rugby Championship campaign, when the Springboks had that loss to the Wallabies at Ellis Park in Johannesburg when they were 22-0 up, that Mazwandile Stick, the Springbok assistant coach, said after that loss, after the Wallabies had that incredible second half performance, it felt like a funeral in that change room. And I asked South African captain Sia Khaleesi at that moment when they were sitting there after the disappointment of Johannesburg, did he ever envisage that they'd be here in a position where it feels like they're making their procession to the title? And what Sia told me is that, the team never get overexcited, and they looked at their processes and they knew they could get it right. So take a listen to our interview with them yesterday and what he said.
There was not one moment where we had given up or thought it's all over or we didn't do anything major that we had to change. We just changed the way some of the things that we did in the game and did them better in the following game. And it wasn't easy, obviously, against Australia, the second game. And then it happened again against New Zealand. We didn't lose hope. We knew, like we've been there before, and we were able to do it. And it's not like we were asked to do something in Wellington we've never done before. A majority of the guys had done that before. So we take lessons from our losses, or we take lessons from our wins. The same thing, but we never get too far ahead, but we also don't beat ourselves down.
All right, just a lot to expect from the Springboks later on, Zayn, when they go up against Argentina in this title decider. You've alluded to it earlier, and you spoke about, it's going to be a history-making thing for the Springboks to defend this title. Never been done before by any Springbok team. I wonder, though, Argentina, do you think they have any chance of winning against the Springboks today following that hammering 67-13 Durban last weekend? This is the same team, I should remind our viewers, that beat New Zealand as well as Australia in the earlier rounds of the Rugby Championship. Do they have a chance, though, against the Springboks today?
Everyone's got a chance in rugby. And look, if you notice the trend, Rachel, the Argentinians lose their first game and win the second.
Yeah.
The difference this time around is that the Springboks are in such good form, and the Argentinians have given up what I would say their home support by playing at this neutral venue for the monetary reasons we outlined earlier, that you'd have to say the Springboks coming into this game would be the overwhelming favourites. Look, Felipe Contepomi has made 7 changes to his team. We now see the likes of Geronimo Priscantelli starting at fly half, Santi Carreras moving to fullback. So we'll see lots of excitement in that back line. But the truth of the matter is, this is equivalent to a final. And when it comes to finals, the Springboks have the know-how of how to win it. They've done it as back-to-back world champions. And no Springbok team has done this in the Rugby Championship or the Tri-Nations. So I think in these games, when it comes down to the pressure, the Boks will win. They should win comfortably. And this will underline their legacy as one of the greatest rugby teams to have ever existed, not just in South Africa, but around the world.
I wonder, you like you said to earlier, you spoke to the Wallabies coach and you obviously had a conversation with the players. Has Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu's name come up during the course of this week in terms of how they're going to utilize him? Because he's probably going to be one of the players to also watch out for from an Argentina point of view when the Boks face off with Argentina later on tonight.
Oh, yes. Everyone's dialed into SFM. And let me tell you, this guy, I mean, the ceiling on him is unlimited. He could not only become the best South African player, he could become, talking about global rugby's face. Everyone has been talking about him. I spoke to Sia Khaleesi, we spoke to Rassie Erasmus, and the key thing with Sasha is to allow him to be the general. That's what they want him to do. They want him to continue to be the general, to make plays, call the shots, and lead this team forward on attack. The trick that Sasha will have to learn is he's not going to have a game like every game he did in Durban where he scored 37 points. Sometimes it's about doing the basics, and it's about letting the other players play off you. And today, for example, Felipe Contepomi might be coming up with a plan to shut him down. So how does Sasha now bring in the weapons next to him, the Cheslin Colbys, the Damian Willemses, all those wonderful attacks that we have? Sasha, as I said, potential is huge. And I'm so glad he's a South African right now, because he could be the next Dan Carter or the next Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Believe the hype.
Absolutely. I think the whole world, the international media, then have taken stock of what we saw last weekend when we saw Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu contributing 37 of the 67 points scored by the Boks. But, before that match is supposed to take place, there's an interesting match later on today in the morning at 11 a.m. Central African time. Australia are hosting New Zealand out at Perth. And the Australian captain, Harry Wilson, is backing the Wallabies, Zayn, to head back at New Zealand later on today for the two teams as they meet in the Bellislow 2 in Perth. Now, the All Blacks have also retained the Bellislow Trophy, but Wilson believes a win today will go a long way towards giving his side the confidence against their fierce rivals. Zayn, let's take a listen to what Harry Wilson had to say in the build-up to this game between Australia as well as the Wallabies.
Not really, to be honest. We're just focused on ourselves. We've had a good week prep this week. We were pretty close last weekend, and we know where we need to fix up from that, and we've got a lot of confidence coming into this weekend. We're obviously playing back on our turf here, and there's a lot of confidence in this group. Yeah, they've been a world-class team for many years now. They've got a lot of good players, and they've got a good forward pack, and they're always up for the Wallabies encounter. The Bledisloe means so much to the two teams, and they've obviously been able to retain it this year, but saying that, I feel as if this team's in the right direction, and even in those, 10 losses, there's been a lot of matches where pretty neck and neck, and Wallabies could have got the result there. So there's a lot of confidence in this group for this weekend.
All right, Zayn, that is the captain of the side of Australia, Harry Wilson, speaking ahead of that title match, or should not necessarily title match, but that match against New Zealand later on this morning. Tell us about the permutation, because if Australia beats New Zealand today, what bearing does it have on the game between South Africa as well as Argentina?
Well, effectively, if Australia beat New Zealand, it's quite tight, and it's 4 points. Well, the Springboks would have won without a ball being kicked in anger. The simple mathematics of this: if the Springboks win today, they pretty much take the title. If they win with a bonus point, they take the title. That's the full 5 points as opposed to the 4. It's all going to be dependent on what New Zealand do against Australia. Look, I think we'll see a closely contested game there, but I'd have to imagine the All Blacks, who are under immense pressure, Rachel. You look at the ex-coach, Scott Razor Robertson. There's a lot of speculation about his future. He's coming up against Joe Schmidt, who coaches the Wallabies, who used to be part of the old coaching setup. There's no love lost between those two figures. This is one they're going to want to win. I don't think the Wallabies will do us any favors. I don't think they'll necessarily beat New Zealand, but we know that the destiny's in our hands. We pitch up here, we play the right rugby, we'll be coming back with the trophy to Johannesburg, and you'll all get to celebrate that.